but really, check yourself and pause if you are about to make a dramatic change to your portfolio as a result of tariffs or the tensions in the Middle East or anything external, because likely that will be a short-term impulsive emotional decision that you will regret in the long run.
The shutdown, even a partial one, could drive Brent crude oil prices up to over $100 a barrel.
The key, trillion-dollar question at this point is, how long is this conflict going to last?
Eventually, conflicts will pass and fundamentals again reassert themselves. So we want you to remember that we believe a diversified portfolio is one of the best tools for long-time growth and weathering market volatility. A disciplined, diversified approach to investing is always going to be your best option.
Hello, welcome back.
Hello, glad to be here with you again.
So glad to be here with you too, my lovely Atricia. Welcome back, everybody, to Living Richly with Curo. This is episode number 60. We are so happy. I know. So happy to have you back, and so happy to have you for the first time if you are just checking us out. So we love you all and we appreciate you all.
Yes.
My name is Anne McCabe. I am the CEO and a partner here at Curo Private Wealth, and I'm joined, as always, by my lovely partner, Atricia.
Hello, I am Atricia Roberts, COO and partner here at Curo. Glad to have you.
Yes. So if you are joining us for the first time, our mission, both in what we do in our day jobs every day, as well as on this podcast, is to educate, inspire, empower you on your financial journeys. And today's topic is very timely. It is all over the news. And that is the recent tensions in the Middle East that have flared up. And most importantly, what we should do about it as investors, if anything, and what we should know about it as investors. So we will get into that topic here momentarily. But as we always love to do, we're going to start with an A-team catch-up. So what do you have to share with the people today?
I mean, not much new to report today. I feel like every week I have something golf related.
Yeah, it's that 'tis the season.
Yeah, but that's like the season I'm in. So it's really the only thing I've got going on outside of work, unfortunately. But since, again, we're in that season, I'll just share. So I recently, and I've talked about this group on the podcast countless times, Queens on the Green, which is the group that introduced me to golf. And we celebrated the 4th anniversary on Sunday, and we had a very nice brunch down in Georgetown in DC. We got all dressed up and just shared together, ladies at brunch sort of a situation, but it was really nice. So just want to give a quick shout out to the Queens on the Green. Thank you all so much for welcoming me into your community and triggering this new obsession I now have with golf.
Yes, we thank you all. Her bank account doesn't, but
does not.
It's bringing you
absolutely does not. Yeah, and then I have an appointment scheduled to get fitted for clubs, which I am both
Oh my
excited and
gosh.
terrified about.
That's exciting. That is a big deal. You are like official with a capital O.
Yeah, again, I'm excited. My credit card is not. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I hear you. But that's a big deal. You are
Yeah.
like, you're getting married now.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I'm outgrowing the starter clubs, because everybody tells you just buy a cheap set to start, just to make sure you're going to stick with it. But now I realize like I don't have all the irons I need. I need a different wedge. And I'm like, all right, it's time to upgrade here. So
Yeah.
TBD
Very exciting.
on the
Oh my
damage that I do.
Yeah. Cannot wait to hear more about that. Super exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
then,
what a great organization, the Queens on the Green. I think it's just
yeah.
phenomenal, like such a great mission.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And they do such a great job of making golf so approachable and less intimidating. Because I've talked to you before about going to play and it's just all men, and some of them can be really nice and some of them can be a little pushy. And so you never kind of know the energy you're going to get on the golf course when you go. So just to have a group that you can go play with and they make it just feel so approachable and just kind of like a safe space. Like I really appreciate that.
Yeah. It's awesome. I think it's fantastic. Super fun.
All right. What's new in your world, partner?
Yay. Well, probably 180 degrees away from brunch in Sequoia, I went to Busch Gardens over the weekend.
Oh, I still am very jealous of that, though.
I mean, really? Are you?
Yes, I love
That's
amusement parks.
yeah, okay, alright. Well, you'll have to come back because apparently the whole family wants to go, so you can come along with us with our family Busch
Yay,
Gardens
I'll
visit
tag
next
along.
time. Yeah. So, I took my almost 8-year-old, he'll be 8 in, like, 5 days, to Busch Gardens, to Williamsburg for his birthday. So I've shared before on the podcast that a couple of years ago, I decided that instead of buying my kids birthday gifts, I was going to take them on trips and have experiences, and I let them pick, with some limitations, of course, but my 8-year-old is super into roller coasters, and he is almost big enough to ride all of them. There were two of the biggest, scariest ones that he thankfully was not quite big enough for because one of them was terrifying, and I was like, "God, please God, Atricia can ride on that with him when he's big enough and we
Absolutely.
go back." Yeah, but it was a blast. We drove up to Williamsburg, spent the night, walked around Colonial Williamsburg, which he had never been to, and then spent literally 10 hours, at Busch Gardens the next day. It was so hot because 'cause we're going through a sauna heat wave right now in the DC area, so just incredibly hot, but a lot of fun, and I was telling the team that I did splurge on the fast passes, they're called quick queues at Busch Gardens, best $300 I've spent because when I tell you, I mean, lines were 120 minutes long, and we would just, like, basically pop on in, like, 15, 20 minutes with the fast pass. Yeah, so, would we do that for all 6 of us when we go back? Probably not, but it was definitely a good investment because we saved a lot of time, so that was good. So, yeah, it was a blast, we had a great time, he had a great time. I shared when I took my 13-year-old away for his birthday this year, like, just the gratitude is so amazing, and same 8-year-old multiple times during the day, he was like, "Mom, this is so much fun, I'm having time," and so that's all you want. All you want as a parent is, some gratitude and for your kids to have fun and hopefully remember these experiences forever.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fantastic. Again, jealous of the amusement park, not jealous of the heat. It was
Oh,
so hot this
oh
weekend.
my god.
My
So hot. I mean, from the second we got there, we were already sweating. It was
Yeah,
insane,
yeah,
insane, but super fun.
yeah. Glad you guys had a good time. Happy early birthday. We have to give
Yeah.
him a nickname. We
I
don't have
know,
a
he needs a
nickname for him
nickname.
yet.
I know,
Yeah.
he needs a nickname. They used to call him Little Messi back when he played soccer, so maybe
Oh,
we'll call him Messi, even though
we'll call him Messy.
he's like a hockey Messi now, but we'll call him Messi.
Okay, we'll
Yeah,
call him Messy. So
that's what they
happy
would
early
call him.
birthday.
All right. Well, let's get into our topic du jour, which is the Middle East. And I will start by kind of setting the scene of what's going on, and then we'll talk about why it all matters and most importantly, what we should do as investors. So, as we are sure you are aware, in recent days and over the last couple of weeks, tensions in the Middle East have raised sharply and escalated sharply, with Israel constructing airstrikes on key Iranian targets, including some nuclear facilities. And then, of course, most recently, the US getting involved by also carrying out military strikes against Iranian nuclear facilities on June 22nd. So the US involvement in particular heightens concerns that Iran may further retaliate. And most importantly, from a global energy perspective, that the vital Strait of Hormuz may be disrupted. So, Atrisa, why don't we talk a little bit about why that matters, why we care about the Strait of Hormuz?
Right. And you probably have never heard of this strait before, but it is vitally important to just global production in general. So, Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz, and that's Hormuz if you wanted to look it up, which is the choke point of about 20% of all global oil flows, about 25% of global energy trade, including oil and liquefied natural gas, flow through that region. So it would be a pretty significant disruption to oil and liquid gas flow if this strait were closed or if it were disrupted in some way. So even the talk of the closure of the Strait of Hormuz is sending shockwaves through the energy markets. Goldman Sachs warned that a shutdown, even a partial one, could drive Brent crude oil prices up to over $100 a barrel. So immediately after this sort of missile strikes began, we saw oil prices jump pretty significantly. When the ceasefire was announced, prices have retreated, but should there be some impact, some closure, disruption to the Strait of Hormuz, we could see global energy prices spike pretty significantly and pretty quickly.
Yeah. And it is interesting to note that it looks like the government or the parliament did vote in Iran to close the Strait of Hormuz. It has not been officially approved, I guess, by the Supreme Court. There is the next step. So it is still functioning, but they are looking at this option anyway. And it is important to note that that has never actually been done, even in
Yeah.
past conflicts in the Middle East.
Yeah. So definitely keeping our eye on the outcome of this week.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk a little bit about the market reaction. So, as Atricia just mentioned, one of the most immediate reactions that we saw was, of course, in the oil markets. And now traders are pricing in a greater probability of a major supply disruption at some point this year. Aside from the oil markets, we have also seen a ton of volatility in both the stock market as well as the bond markets. And it's important to note that even in the short term, a supply shock could alone bring back inflationary pressures, as one of the main reasons that we've seen inflation decline recently has been a decline in oil prices. So if we see the opposite of that, that could really start to push inflation up. And also, if we see higher oil prices and possibly then consumer spending decline, these two things could have a negative impact on corporate profit margins, which could therefore have a negative impact on the stock market. So the key, trillion-dollar question at this point is, how long is this conflict going to last? Is it going to be just a brief kind of done sort of conflict, which is not looking super likely, or is it going to be more prolonged? As of the day of this recording, Israel and Iran have agreed to a ceasefire. And as a result, as Teresa mentioned, we have seen a decline in oil prices, which is great, as well as the S&P 500 is eyeing a brand new fresh record, which is almost crazy to believe. But obviously, we do record these episodes a bit in advance. So by the time this airs, that could be a totally different picture, but this is what we are dealing with at this point.
Yeah. So now we want to just give you some idea of what you should do or what investors should do, because of course we're money managers here. So while each market shock, and of course this new Middle East conflict is a new shock, even though they're unique in some way, history tells us that markets eventually recover, right? And we've said this so many times, probably ad nauseum on the Living Richie podcast. But eventually conflicts will pass and fundamentals again reassert themselves. So we want you to remember that we believe a diversified portfolio is one of the best tools for long time growth and weathering market volatility. And with this new shock, along with the already sort of pending tariff shock or trade tension shocks that we're experiencing, we have to be prepared that volatility is going to continue to be higher than it has been over the last 2 years. But time has shown that diversification and maintaining a disciplined long term approach, again, something you've heard us say ad nauseum, is the best way to grow your wealth over the long term. So, of course, while we want to be mindful and keep our eye on these sort of short term events that happened, whether it's in geopolitical affairs or in economic affairs, as long term investors, you should always remember a disciplined, diversified approach to investing is always going to be your best option.
Absolutely. We talk about that a lot, and it's because it is a tried and true principle that we live by. And we did a webinar last week that you can feel free to check out on our YouTube channel, where we talked a little bit about, what's happened in the market so far this year and also some things that you may want to consider. And one of the other things that we talk about a lot is making sure that you have proper liquidity, proper cash reserves. So, generally speaking, we don't believe that we should make major changes to our investment portfolios as a result of something that's happening externally, like the tensions in the Middle East, or fill in any other issue, right, du jour. We believe that the only time that we should change our portfolios is if something changes in our situation, with our goals, with our time horizon. And of course, we're rebalancing and, tactically, opportunistically making small changes here and there. But really, check yourself and pause if you are about to make a dramatic change to your portfolio as a result of tariffs or the tensions in the Middle East or anything external, because likely that will be a short term, impulsive, emotional decision that you will regret in the long run. We've seen it time and time again.
Yeah. So just, I mean, you hate to say it, but the advice is probably do nothing.
Yeah.
But that's, of course, considering that you're already taking a disciplined, diversified
Yes,
approach.
exactly. Assuming you have a nice, good, well rounded, diversified portfolio, then yes, do nothing. Yeah. All right. Well, that is our episode of the week. So we always like to end with a closing thought. So, Atricia, what do you have as a closing thought for us?
So and it's so weird, but I have like these feel good TV shows. So anytime I just need to kind of decompress, turn my brain off, they're like a library of shows I go to. So like Grace and Frankie is one of them. They're just such a feel good, light-hearted, not too heavy TV. So one of the ones I've been revisiting this week when I've had some time is Ted Lasso.
Oh my
Um
gosh, such a great show, like my favorite.
Yes, it's so good. It's so positive and lighthearted, and there's always just like these good little nuggets in the show that they share. So one of them that came up, I think it was toward the end of the series because there's only I think 3 seasons. So it was one of the last episodes of season 3. But Roy Kent, who is like the retired footballer in the series, is talking about how he feels like he's been working so hard to get better and he's still himself. And one of the pieces of advice that he gets is that, perfect is boring, but as long as you're asking for help and taking help and moving toward better, you're doing great. And I thought that was such a great way to think about that. So that's my closing thought. Again, I always try to leave you guys with some of the things I try to always remind myself about. My closing thought is typically as much for me as it is for our listeners and viewers. But I thought that was such a sweet little nugget. Like we're always just moving toward better. And as long as we ask for help and receive the help along the way, then we're always moving toward better. So I love that. So that was my closing thought from my
I love
feel
that.
good show, Ted Lasso.
Oh, love that. Yeah, progress over perfection.
Yes, every day.
Yes, love that. And Ted
Yeah.
Lasso is such a great show. If you have not seen it, definitely check it out. I
Yeah.
actually got Wally a book about Ted Lasso leadership for Christmas last
Oh,
year.
really?
Yeah, because we loved that show so much and
Yeah,
just
it's
love
really
Ted
good.
Lasso's leadership style. So,
Yeah, it's really,
yeah.
really good.
Mhm.
Really great
Such a
show.
great show. Such a
Yeah.
great show. So, like you, I also mostly share closing thoughts of things that are kind of on my mind and that are helping me and working well for me. So, Atrice and I have had quite a week in terms of being leaders and running a firm. And some weeks are bring us challenges and make us grow and make us that much better leaders. But when things feel really challenging and a lot of things are out of my control, what I really try to do is kind of focus inward and really identify things that are 100% inside of my control. These are things we talk and we coach clients about all the time. And so I have really been focusing this week on like back to the basics in terms of, making sure my nutrition is checked in, making sure I'm getting my 10,000 steps a day. I never get enough sleep, but getting as much sleep as I possibly can, getting my meditation in, getting my workouts in, so whatever those things are, like the basic things that we want to do, drinking enough water, like things that make us feel good and that are inside of our control. I've just been like focusing on making sure that I get those things done. And that feels really good because obviously it makes me feel better, like, emotionally and physically, but also it makes me feel like, okay, I'm getting things done that are within my control, and all these other things that are happening outside of my control, it will be what it will be, but at least inside of this little sphere of control that I have, I'm feeling, quite empowered. So that is my closing thought of the day, which again, we've shared many times, but focus on what you can control, and
Yeah.
and time just getting back to the basics feels really good.
Yeah, both in your personal world and your investment world, just the things you can control. That's really great advice because we definitely had a growing week as
Yep,
leaders.
we have. We're
We
growing so much, getting
we're
stronger
we're
by
getting
the
so
day.
much stronger this week, which is interesting, but I think also to the point that I think you shared maybe last week on the podcast, or maybe you were just talking to me. But we've been doing it together, which is always nice to go through the growing moments with someone else who understands and can help. But I do think it is really good advice to get back to the basics. I've been trying to do something similar. So, like making myself get up and do 30 minutes on the walking pad every morning, even if I don't do anything else, and packing my breakfast and packing my lunch. And I don't know that I've thought about it that way, but maybe that's what I've subconsciously been doing, just trying to assert some control in my personal life when so much feels out of my control. So thank you for sharing that. Nice to hear it articulated that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I don't think we did share that on the
Oh,
pod,
yeah,
but
sorry.
yeah, no, it's okay. I mean, just having been a, sole practitioner for so long, and like having to go through challenging moments running a business by myself, I am just so grateful to, be going through some growing pains together with you, and it's just so nice to have somebody who you can, talk through things with and check in and make sure like you're not completely off your rocker about how you're
Like, am
or
I
if you
crazy?
are or if you are off your rocker, I know that Atricia will tell me like, "And you're off your rocker." And I will not love her any less. I will take that, as face value. So, just grateful to have the partnership.
Yeah, I
Sure.
appreciate you. Yeah, but more often, we both are like, "Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's" it's never a situation, or it hasn't been, where
No,
I'm like,
it
"No, you're
hasn't been.
completely off on that one."
Yeah, it has not been. It has not been so far, but,
Yeah.
could happen. So, anyway, y'all, thank you so much for joining us. As always, we know that you have so many things you could be doing with your time right now. And so the fact that you spend some of it with us is wonderful. And we're so grateful. Tag us on Instagram. We want to hear
Mhm.
from you. If you have any ideas for episodes or have questions, we are at Curo Private Wealth. And until next week,
Live richly.
thanks again for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to subscribe and share it with someone who might benefit from it. Friendly reminder that this is for informational purposes only. For additional information, please visit us at www.curoprivatewealth.com. Until next time, live richly.